I wanted to talk about living and surviving on the road after all these years.
Yeah, well, we both have a long touring experience, more than 30 years. Normally, a lot of unexpected surprises will happen when you go on the road, especially if you are with more than two people. It gets a bit more complex. I have a lot of stories, but I think a couple of things are pretty important when you are on the road. First one is try to get enough sleep. I remember the David Liebman touring guide in the Saxophone Journal of 30 years ago, and he mentioned sleep when you're dead, eat when you can. I would say, well, sleep also when you can. That's the first one. Second one, I would say be clear about logistics as much as possible, almost like you're traveling with a couple of children, know exactly where to go to. If you arrive on an airport, you checked everything, if people are picking you up or not. You have name, address, phone number of the hotel, the promoter, the engineer. I think that's the basics. Because if you have this, you don't have stress about that. And you probably will have stress about other things. Maybe one short story which I think lines this out is I was on a flight back from Mexico to the Netherlands last year, together with Sanne, the singer in my trio, and we had a stopover in Atlanta. We actually forgot to buy the ESTA, because if you fly through the United States, you always go through the customs. We didn't have it, so we bought it at the desk. The ESTA came in 2 hours later. We missed our flight. Normally what happens to me is I stay very calm and I start to think. And actually it was quite easy to solve. I called the travel agency because it was still 3 o'clock in the day. It was a Friday. They rebooked a new flight through Houston. We had our ESTAs. We had to pay about 200 euros each extra, which was kind of okay. So in a way we were lucky. But what is my experience is when something happens on the road, don't get in panic. Most of the time there are a lot of sweet people who will help you. You have to listen to them. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah,
People miss their flights every day, and trust.
Yeah, it's also my experience that there are always a lot of people out there who are helpful. I was in China a couple of months ago, and I was struggling with buying train tickets in a language which has a different alphabet. And, also there in that country where you wouldn't expect it, people were so nice and helpful. And yeah.
People always want to help, and it's, I had it really many times, and it's just a question of dare to ask.
Exactly. And you said before preparation. Yeah. What I always do is I have a very actually comprehensive checklist. I work always with checklists. That's what I always recommend people before you go on the road.
That's very smart. What I normally do is I make an itinerary for myself and the band members. On top of it, I put flights, flight numbers and times. Then I put concerts/venues, so you know where you play when, including the call sheets, so at what time you have to be there. Always have a mobile number of the engineer, mobile number of the organizer, mobile number of everybody, so that you can the pickup. And then third, accommodation. And when I go packing my stuff for another tour, it's always passport, tickets, money.
Yeah.
If you have a passport, if you have a couple of credit cards, so you have money, you have some cash. Sometimes you need cash when you go to Cuba. And if you have this, basically nothing can go wrong. And if something goes wrong, you can solve it.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I also do is I don't write everything. I mean, I sync everything through a note on my phone so that I don't have to, when I'm at an airport, something like this happens that you have to pull out your laptop. but that I have everything in my phone as well.
That's smart. What I also do is I learned that in India, because in India you're not allowed to enter the terminal if you don't have a printed ticket. And if you have, I had once a tour with 12 connecting flights in India. So I didn't have all the tickets yet. I just had the itinerary on a paper. So in that case, I just print it out. So I actually have it all really on paper. So I can show it. So if my phone dies or is stolen, I can actually still do that.
Does it still work like that in India?
Yeah.
Because it's so high tech there.
Yeah, and it's so stressy on the airports, especially Mumbai and Delhi, that they don't allow other people in the terminal. So you have to prove that you are on a flight, and they need a piece of paper of that, or a ticket. So, but yeah, it's very smart to have always a backup plan. So you have it in your phone, you have it in your laptop, and I even have it on paper.
Another thing, for instance, some countries, they wouldn't allow you in if your passport expires within 6 months.
Exactly.
I also I was once stuck in between Japan and Taiwan.
Yeah, and again, maybe this one is nice to share. It's also about how things can be solved. I was in the Ukraine before the war, and we had a connecting flight from Kiev to Jordan, and then a couple of gigs in the desert in Jordan in the body room. Amazing experience.
Beautiful.
So we were 4 days in the Ukraine to record a video clip. Then and then this was in COVID time. It was in October 2021, and it was possible to travel to both of those countries. So after the video clip, we were back in Kiev, and then the COVID rules changed in the 4 days we actually were there. We didn't know that. So we didn't have a PCR test, and we actually needed to have a PCR test. So we did the PCR test, and we had to wait for 6 hours. So we missed again the flight. They could actually for free rebook us on a night flight, but we didn't sleep for 2 days already in the Ukraine because we were filming in the night. So then we had another night, and we actually arrived the next morning in Jordan, and everything was okay. So again, it's something, most of the time things will be solved in a certain way. In this case, we were afraid to miss the concert in Jordan, but we actually were in time. It was great. Everybody enjoyed it. So I think when you travel, trust is an important thing.
Exactly. Thank you. If you enjoy my podcast, then please subscribe, give it a rating, and share it with other musicians. I also host another podcast, the Mike Del Ferro podcast, with travel stories, interviews with wonderful people, and more. You will find it on Spotify and all other podcast platforms, or via my website, mikedelferro.com.